The moon hung low in the velvet sky, casting a soft silver glow over the quiet world below. The stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, and a gentle breeze whispered secrets to the swaying trees. It was the perfect night for a bedtime story, one filled with magic, dreams, and adventure. Nestled in her cozy little burrow, a tiny creature stirred. Her name was Chhoti Chuhiya, a small, curious mouse with soft gray fur and bright, twinkling eyes that held the sparkle of 1,000 dreams. Every night, just as the world fell asleep, Chhoti Chuhiya would embark on a new adventure, not in the real world, but in the world of dreams. Where will my dreams take me tonight? She wondered, curling up in her warm, fluffy nest. She closed her eyes, feeling the softness of the moss beneath her and the gentle rhythm of her heartbeat. As she drifted into sleep, a strange yet delightful scent filled the air. It smelled like honey and fresh rain, like laughter and lullabies. She twitched her little nose, and suddenly the world around her changed. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in her burrow. Instead, she stood in front of a shimmering golden door, floating in the middle of nowhere. The door glowed softly, as if it were made of stardust and dreams. She took a hesitant step forward, her tiny heart pounding with excitement. "Is this a dream?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. The golden door creaked open by itself, revealing a path made of silver mist, leading into an enchanting world unlike anything she had ever seen before. Chhoti Chuhiya hesitated for only a moment before stepping inside. As soon as she crossed the threshold, a soft giggle echoed in the air, like the sound of wind chimes dancing in the breeze. The world beyond the door was breathtaking. The sky was a deep shade of twilight, painted with swirls of purple and blue, and the grass beneath her tiny paws shimmered like crushed emeralds. Fireflies hovered in the air, glowing softly, their tiny lights flickering like stars. The trees were tall and ancient, their leaves glowing with a faint golden hue, whispering stories in a language only dreams could understand. Then she heard it, a melody, faint and distant, like someone humming a lullaby just beyond her reach. Intrigued, she followed the sound, her ears twitching with curiosity. As she walked, she noticed the air growing warmer, filled with the comforting scent of vanilla and cinnamon. And then she saw him. Perched on a low branch of a golden-leaved tree was a wise old owl with feathers that shimmered like moonlight. His large, kind eyes glowed softly, reflecting the twinkling stars above. He was humming, his voice deep and soothing, a song that seemed to wrap around Chhoti Chuhiya like a warm blanket. "Ah, little dream traveler," the owl said in a voice as smooth as the night breeze. "Welcome to the land of forgotten dreams." Chhoti Chuhiya tilted her head. "The land of forgotten dreams," she repeated, her whiskers twitching. The owl nodded. "Yes, the place where dreams go when they are left behind, when they are forgotten by the ones who dreamed them." Chhoti Chuhiya looked around, her eyes widening. Now that she focused, she could see shapes floating in the air. Tiny, glowing bubbles filled with images. In one, a child danced in the rain. In another, someone was flying high above the clouds. Some dreams were soft and gentle, like the touch of a mother's hand, while others crackled with adventure, filled with knights, dragons, and untold mysteries. But why are they forgotten? Chhoti Chuhiya asked. The owl sighed. Because people grow up. They stop believing in magic, in dreams. They forget the stories they once told themselves at night. Chhoti Chuhiya felt a pang of sadness. She couldn't imagine forgetting her dreams. They were her favorite part of every night. Can they ever remember them again? She asked hopefully. The owl's eyes twinkled. Perhaps, if someone reminds them. A thought sparked in Chhoti Chuhiya's mind. Maybe, just maybe, she could help. Maybe she could find a way to return these dreams to the ones who had lost them. But before she could ask how, a sudden gust of wind swept through the land, rustling the glowing leaves. The owl's feathers fluffed up slightly as he gazed toward the horizon. Ah, he murmured. Something stirs in the dreaming woods. A lost dream is trying to find its way back. Chhoti Chuhiya's heart raced with excitement. Can I help? She asked eagerly. The owl smiled. That, little one, is up to you. And just like that, her dream adventure had truly begun. Chhoti Chuhiya felt her tiny heart thudding in her chest as she gazed toward the dreaming woods, where the air shimmered with a strange, restless energy. The owl watched her with knowing eyes, his feathers rustling softly as he spread his wings and gave her a slow nod. If you wish to help, you must follow the call of the lost dream, he said, his voice deep and steady. But be warned, little traveler, not all dreams wish to be found, and some are too tangled in fear and doubt to return home. Chhoti Chuhiya swallowed hard. She wasn't afraid. Not really. At least, that's what she told herself. The idea of lost dreams and forgotten wishes filled her with an odd sense of excitement. She had never thought about where dreams went when they faded, but now she was in the very land where they lived, waiting to be remembered. She took a deep breath, squared her tiny shoulders, and scurried forward into the woods. The moment she stepped past the first tree, the air grew cooler, filled with the faint scent of rain and something bittersweet, like laughter that had been left behind. The trees stood tall and ancient, their bark woven with silver threads that pulsed like heartbeat rhythms. Somewhere in the distance, a soft, whispering sound beckoned her forward. It was not words, not exactly, but a feeling, a longing, an echo of something forgotten yet still alive. Chhoti Chuhiya followed it, her tiny paws barely making a sound against the glowing moss that covered the forest floor. The path twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the heart of the dreaming woods. Strange and beautiful things filled the air around her. Floating lanterns that whispered old bedtime stories. Golden butterflies that flickered in and out of sight like tiny flames. And pools of water that reflected not just the sky, but entire forgotten memories. As she walked, she caught glimpses of these memories. Children laughing as they built castles out of clouds. An old man dreaming of the sea he had never sailed. A little girl spinning in a dress made of sunlight. Each one flickered like a candle in the wind, fragile but still burning. Then she heard it, a sob, a soft, trembling sound, almost lost in the hush of the forest. Chhoti Chuhiya's ears perked up, and she turned toward the source. At the base of an ancient tree, nestled in the hollow between its roots, was a tiny, flickering shape. It was a dream, a lost one. But unlike the others, this one was dim, its edges fraying like a threadbare cloth. It was shaped like a little boy, curled up with his arms wrapped around his knees. Chhoti Chuhiya crept closer, her voice gentle. "Hello?" The dream flinched, but did not disappear. It lifted its head slightly, revealing large, sorrowful eyes that shimmered like broken stars. "Who are you?" the dream asked in a voice as soft as the wind through leaves. "I'm Chhoti Chuhiya," she said. "And you? You're a lost dream, aren't you?" The dream sniffled. "I think so, but I don't remember who I belong to. I only remember being loved once, and then forgotten." Chhoti Chuhiya's heart ached for the little dream. She stepped closer, her tiny paws careful against the moss. "Maybe I can help," she said. "Maybe we can find out who you belong to and bring you back." The dream hesitated. "But what if they don't want me anymore?" Chhoti Chuhiya frowned. "That can't be true. Dreams don't just stop being loved. Sometimes people just forget for a little while. But that doesn't mean they don't need you." The dream looked at her with a flicker of hope, but it was faint, as if it didn't dare believe in such things anymore. Just then, the trees around them trembled, and a low murmur filled the air. The owl's warning echoed in Chhoti Chuhiya's mind. Not all dreams wish to be found, and some are too tangled in fear and doubt to return home. She turned her head sharply as shadows flickered between the trees. These were not lost dreams. These were something else. Forgotten fears. Dark, twisting shapes moved through the trees, their whispers curling through the air like smoke. "No one remembers you. You are nothing but a faded thought. They have moved on without you." The little dream shrank back, its glow flickering dangerously. Chhoti Chuhiya felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to let the whispers take root. She stomped her tiny paw against the moss. "That's not true," she declared. "Dreams are never really forgotten. They just need someone to remind them who they are." The shadows hissed, curling closer, but Chhoti Chuhiya stood her ground. "Come with me," she said, turning to the little dream. "I won't let them take you. I'll bring you back to where you belong." The dream hesitated for only a second before reaching out with its small, flickering hand. Chhoti Chuhiya grasped it tightly, feeling its warmth against her fur. Then, without another word, she ran. The forest twisted around them, the path shifting beneath her paws, but she didn't stop. The shadows lashed out, their whispers growing sharper, but she ignored them. She focused only on the warmth of the little dream's hand, on the flickering light that still burned inside it. And then, just when she thought they would never escape, a golden glow burst through the trees. The owl was waiting for them, his eyes filled with something ancient and knowing. Chhoti Chuhiya stumbled to a stop, panting, the little dream still clinging to her. The owl gazed at them both and then spread his great wings. "Hold on tight, little traveler," he said. "It is time to take this dream home." A rush of wind surrounded them, and in the blink of an eye, the world spun away. A gust of golden wind swirled around Chhoti Chuhiya and the little lost dream as the owl's great wings stretched wide. The dreaming woods faded into shimmering mist, and for a brief moment, everything was weightless. Chhoti Chuhiya felt as though she were floating through the night sky, drifting between stars and moonlight. The little dream clung to her, its tiny fingers trembling, but she squeezed its hand reassuringly. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the wind stilled. The golden glow faded, and Chhoti Chuhiya found herself standing somewhere new. They were no longer in the land of forgotten dreams. They were somewhere soft and warm, filled with the scent of childhood, freshly baked cookies, rain-soaked grass, and the faintest hint of crumpled pages from an old bedtime book. Chhoti Chuhiya blinked, adjusting to the dim light. They were in a small room, cozy and quiet, lit only by a little night lamp shaped like a crescent moon. A bed stood against one wall, its blankets slightly messy, as if someone had been tossing and turning in restless sleep. And in that bed, curled up beneath the covers, was a little boy. The lost dream gasped softly, its glow flickering with recognition. I remember this place. Chhoti Chuhiya's whiskers twitched. Is this your home? The dream nodded slowly, stepping forward hesitantly, as if afraid the moment might disappear. Its glow shimmered, growing a little brighter. Yes, this is where I used to live. This is where I was dreamed. The little boy stirred in his sleep, his small face scrunching up as if caught between the edges of a dream and reality. Chhoti Chuhiya watched him closely, noticing the way his fingers curled around the edge of the blanket, how his brow furrowed slightly, as if searching for something he couldn't quite remember. He's dreaming, Chhoti Chuhiya whispered. The little dream hesitated, its glow flickering. But will he still want me? Before Chhoti Chuhiya could answer, the owl's deep, steady voice filled the room, though his form was nowhere to be seen. A dream never truly disappears, the owl's voice murmured. It simply waits to be found again. Chhoti Chuhiya looked back at the little dream and gave it a small, encouraging nod. Go on, see if he remembers you. The dream hesitated only a moment longer before stepping closer to the sleeping boy. It reached out a small, glowing hand and gently touched his forehead. For a second, nothing happened. The boy remained still, his breath slow and even. And then, the room shimmered. A warm, golden light pulsed from where the dream had touched the boy, spreading like ripples in a pond. Chhoti Chuhiya's ears perked as the boy's expression shifted, his frown smoothing out, his fingers relaxing against the blanket. Then, ever so slowly, a small smile tugged at his lips. The lost dream's glow brightened, spreading upward like the first rays of dawn. Chhoti Chuhiya watched in awe as the dream slowly merged with the boy's sleeping form, sinking into him like a memory returning home. The moment the last shimmer of golden light faded, the boy sighed in his sleep. His breathing evened out, peaceful and content. Chhoti Chuhiya's heart swelled with warmth. The dream had found its way back. She turned, half expecting to see the golden door waiting for her, ready to take her back to her own world. But something made her pause. The boy's lips parted, and in a voice soft with sleep, he whispered something. Something that made Chhoti Chuhiya's tiny heart leap. Chhoti Chuhiya. Her whiskers twitched in surprise. Did he just? Before she could finish the thought, a gust of wind swept through the room. But this time, it wasn't the golden wind of dreams. It was something gentler, something familiar. It smelled of home. The world around her blurred once more, and before she could react, she was drifting away, the golden light of the boy's dreams fading into the distance. And then, she was back. Her tiny body stirred beneath the soft covers of her own little burrow. The familiar scent of her cozy home wrapped around her like a warm hug. The distant chirp of crickets filling the air outside. For a moment, she lay still, staring at the ceiling of her burrow, wondering if it had all been real. The dreaming woods, the lost dream, the golden door. Had she truly traveled through the land of forgotten dreams, or had it all been just another one of her own dreams? But then, a soft, golden glow flickered in the air beside her, like a firefly dancing in the dark, and Chhoti Chuhiya smiled. Because deep in her heart, she knew the truth. Some dreams were too magical to ever be forgotten. The warmth of her little burrow wrapped around Chhoti Chuhiya like a familiar blanket. But something felt different. She lay still for a moment, her tiny paws curled against her chest, her ears twitching as she listened to the quiet hum of the night outside. The golden glow she had seen just before waking still flickered at the edges of her mind, like a dream that hadn't quite let go. Had it all really happened? The golden door, the dreaming woods, the lost dream, the boy who had whispered her name in his sleep. Was it all just a figment of her imagination, or had she truly stepped into a world beyond dreams? She sat up slowly, stretching her little limbs. Her nest was just as she had left it, the soft moss still warm from where she had curled up the night before. Everything in her burrow looked the same. The tiny bookshelf stacked with little treasures she had collected, the woven rug she loved to roll around on, the small lantern that flickered dimly in the corner. But something in the air had changed. It was subtle, like the faint scent of rain before a storm, or the way the wind shifted just before sunrise. It was as if the very fabric of the world had been touched by something magical, something that lingered just out of reach. Chhoti Chuhiya's whiskers twitched. She had to know. She scrambled out of her nest, her tiny paws moving quickly as she scurried toward the entrance of her burrow. The cool night air greeted her as she peeked outside, her bright eyes scanning the quiet world beyond. The trees stood tall, their leaves shimmering under the silver light of the moon. The grass rustled softly in the gentle breeze, whispering secrets only the night could understand. And then, there it was, a tiny speck of golden light, floating just above the ground, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Chhoti Chuhiya's breath caught in her throat. She took a cautious step forward, her tiny heart thudding with excitement. The golden speck flickered, as if it had been waiting for her, and then it began to drift away. Slowly at first, then a little faster, weaving through the tall grass like a firefly, leading her somewhere unseen. Without a second thought, she followed. The night stretched around her, vast and endless, but she felt no fear. The golden light guided her, its glow steady and sure. She followed it past the familiar trees of the forest, past the quiet stream that reflected the starlit sky, past the old oak tree that had stood for as long as she could remember. And then, just as the golden light seemed to burn a little brighter, she saw something ahead. A door, but not just any door. It was the same golden door she had stepped through in her dream, the one that had led her to the dreaming woods. It stood there, impossibly out of place in the middle of the forest, its surface shimmering like liquid gold under the moonlight. Chhoti Chuhiya's heart pounded. She had a choice. She could turn back now, return to the comfort of her burrow, pretend that it had all been just a dream. Or she could step forward. She took a deep breath, and then, with a single step, she touched the door. The moment her tiny paw made contact, a rush of golden wind surrounded her, lifting her into the air. The world spun, the trees and grass blurring into streaks of light and color. The wind whispered through her fur, carrying with it the soft hum of a lullaby, the same melody she had heard in the dreaming woods. And then, silence. When the world settled again, she found herself standing in a place both familiar and new. The dreaming woods. But this time, something was different. The trees stood taller, their leaves glowing brighter. The air shimmered with a kind of energy that pulsed through the ground beneath her paws. The floating lanterns drifted higher, their whispered stories carrying farther. It was as if the entire land had been waiting for her return. And, waiting, right in front of her, was the owl. His silver-feathered form glowed under the twilight sky, his large eyes filled with something wise and knowing. "You have returned, little traveler," he said, his voice as steady as the wind through the trees. Chhoti Chuhiya swallowed. "Was it real?" she asked. "The lost dream? The boy?" The owl nodded slowly. "As real as the stars in the sky. As real as the dreams that shape the world." Chhoti Chuhiya took a step closer, her tiny paws pressing into the glowing moss beneath her. "Then why am I here again? I thought my journey was over." The owl's eyes twinkled. "A dream is never truly over, little one. It continues in different ways, in different hearts. You brought a lost dream home, but there are many more waiting to be found." Chhoti Chuhiya's ears twitched. "You mean there are more lost dreams?" The owl spread his great wings. "Many more. And some, little traveler, may not find their way home without a guide." Something warm bloomed in Chhoti Chuhiya's chest. She thought of the little lost dream, of the boy who had smiled in his sleep, of the golden glow that had wrapped around them both like a forgotten hug. She thought of all the dreams that had been left behind, waiting for someone to remember them. And in that moment, she knew. Her journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. The wind stirred through the dreaming woods, carrying the soft melody of an old, forgotten lullaby. The golden door behind her shimmered, waiting, offering her a way back home. But Chhoti Chuhiya only smiled, because this time she wasn't ready to go home just yet. There were more dreams to find, and she was going to bring them all back